Let us begin. So, what is this? This is a meditation system that is meant to improve your concentration and lead you towards a path of development of what might be known in the language of today as telekinetic and telepathic powers. This may appear exaggerated, but this is in fact the purpose of this system. It is known as the tree of life, and in order so that we speak about it, let us look at the components of this system from different angles. So let us start with the levels. But before then, it is good to understand that it is made of 10 worlds that are connected by 22 lines known as paths, or that is the roads, and the worlds themselves are known as sephira. So if we look at the levels and we start with the first one right here, this is known as the level of Atziluth, or the level of pure spirit, or the archetype. And the word archetype means something like a living image. If we go to the next level right here, and also well to understand that this first level is given the letter Yod in the spelling of the word Jehovah that has got 4 letters. So we shall name the letters as we go. The first level, which is this one, Atziluth, is associated with Yod. The next one right here is World 4, 5, and 6. These ones are associated with the next level known as the level of Beria, or the level of ethics or morality, associated with the next letter in the word Jehovah, which is Hey. If we go to the next one, the next level right here, which is world 7, 8, and 9, this is known as the level of Yetzirah, or the level of formation or creation. And this is associated with the third letter of the word in the word Jehovah, which is the vow. And the next one right here, which is the last one, this is Asia, the level of Asia. And this level of Asia has got only this particular world, and it is the manifestation of the world. It is the material world as we see it. So that is the full name. That is Jehovah. That is Yod, Hey, Vow, and Hey. So the next thing we need to look at is that it is made of 10 worlds. So let's look at each of the worlds and what it usually represents. So starting from the top here, we have what is known as the crown, or Kether. It is known as Kether in its original language. In English, we call it the crown or the wheel. The next one right here is that which is known as Chesed. It is known as Chokma, actually, not Chesed. It is known as Chokma, and it is usually translated in English as wisdom, associated with the image of the Father. The next one right here is known as Binah in its original language, which is Hebrew, by the way, for those who do not know. And it is translated as understanding in English, and it is usually associated with the image of the mother. The next one right here is this one known as Chesed, usually translated as mercy, associated with the image of the peaceful king or the philosopher king. And in this case, because we are using the Bible, this is Abraham. The next one right here is the world that is usually known as Geburah. In English, we translate it to judgment. And this is the warrior king. And since we are using the Bible, we are going to take the image of Isaac. The next one right here is usually known as Tiferet in its original language. It is translated as compassion in English, and it is associated with the image of Moses and Jacob. This is usually the rectified leader, the leader that was like this, went somewhere on a journey and learned something of himself or of God and has changed in some kind of a way, and usually comes back as some kind of a savior. Usually there is a conflict here of the savior, because the old fathers stick with Moses and Jacob, and the new fathers take upon Jesus. and it becomes a whole thing. But yes, we shall look at that. The next thing right here is the word that is usually translated to be known as endurance. In its original language, it is known as netzach. This one and this one here, number 8, they are part of what is known as the prophecy. That is the level of Jehovah Sabaoth, and that is Jehovah the Lord of hosts. The next one right here is usually known as Hod. We translate that to glory or the splendor. Again, part of the prophecy. If we look down here, we have the next one, which is usually known as Yesod. We translate that to the foundation associated with the image of Joseph. The next one, which is the last one here, number 10, this one is usually known as the Shekinah, or usually known as Malkuth. We may use the word Malkuth most of the time. This is the one that is used a lot. The presence, it is sometimes known as the bride, and it is associated with the image of King David. So as you can see, those are the 10 worlds that are part of this system. But we must move on to the next thing, which is, as you can see, that this world, this system has been divided into 3 sides. You can see here we have the right side, the left side, and we have a middle side. So this one on the right, it is known as the path of mercy, and it is usually associated with masculine character, or that is associated with men, and they are given the character of mercy. It may appear as being contradictory, but that actually is the character that the masculine spirit is given. On this left side, this is known as the pillar. So these are known as pillars. You can call them sides, but pillars work. So this being the pillar of severity or the pillar of judgment, associated with the femininity or women, and it is given the character of judgment or severity, as we have mentioned. This middle pillar here, which is the path of the sages, of the kings of the kings. So this one is the one that is the balance of both sides, the masculine and the feminine. So as you can see, it has got 4 worlds to it, and we shall look at that in a different time, because those are actually a lot of things that need to be discussed there. But keep in mind, this one is known as, the one on the right is known as the pillar of mercy. The one on the left is known as the pillar of severity, and the one in the middle is known as the pillar of equilibrium. So the next thing we need to look at. So since these things these are ideal qualities. That is, we would like here to manifest a good will. We would like here to manifest wisdom. Here we would like to manifest understanding. Here we would like to manifest mercy. Here we would like to manifest judgment. Here we would like to manifest compassion. But what if that is not what is there? And in fact, for some of you that may be looking at this, they may be looking at it as a means to correct or to change something. You have probably been talking to a lot of psychologists, and your problems just never end. So what if it develops in the wrong fashion? So let's look at some of the demonic entities that can come from each of these worlds. So starting with this world here, it is usually known as Thaumiel in the language of the esoterics, and it is the entity that can manifest from here is Moloch or Satan. The next one right here, it is known as Gagiel in the esoteric language, and the entity that can come from here is Beelzebub. Remember Jesus being accused of using the power of Beelzebub to remove demons, and he asked them, if I am removing demons, does that mean that the devil is foolish or Satan is foolish? How can the devil remove devils? But yes, that is a sermon for another day. The next one right here is usually known as Satariel, and the entity that can come from here is known as Lucifuge. The next one right here is known as Gag Shebla, which is, it was associated with Abraham, but in this case, being called Gag Shebla, it is associated with Astaroth. I'm sure some of you have heard Astaroth from the Bible, or Astarte. That is the demonic entity that can develop there. The next one right here, this one is known as Golachab, and the entity that can develop here, that is usually known as Asmodeus. The next one right here is known as Dagrion, which basically means it means a dispute. This is actually a dispute, and the entity that can develop from Dagrion here is Belphegor. The next one here, which is number 7, this one is known as Arab Zarak, and the entity that can develop here is Baal. I'm sure some of you have seen this from the Bible. The next one right here, which is number 8, is usually known as Samael, and the entity that can come from here is usually known as Samael still, but some usually use Adramelech, but let's just stay with Samael. The next one right here is usually known as, this is number 9, it is usually known as Gamaliel, and the entity that can come from here is Lilith. I know woman does not usually like to hear that word, but that is the entity that can develop from there. The next one right here is usually known, so this one, this is a trick here, or it might confuse some people. So this one is usually known as Gamaliel, but the entity is known as Lilith. While this one, number 10, is usually known as Lilith, but the entity is called Naama. So yes, those are the demonic powers as well. Remember that Jehovah is a dualistic God that encompasses within himself both male and female, both light and darkness, good and evil. So Jehovah does not see evil as being outside of himself. There is nothing in which he believes that was created that was not created by God. So everything is here in this system. All of them are in this system. What else can we look at? So it might be interesting to look at the cube, but I suspect we won't have time for looking at the cube. We have looked at the levels, we have looked at the worlds, we have looked at the demonic entities, but in any case, we might look at the cube. So the cube are the lines that are on the diagram, now designed in a different kind of a way. The reason for this is in order to create a cyclical system that works in 7 days. So as you can see, we have day 1 here, day 1 in the west, which is known as the first day on which God created the light, and he saw the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. He called the light day, the darkness night, such kind of a thing. The second day in the north, in which God created the sky, and do not proceed to speak beyond that, but that is the second day. The third day is when God separated the land from the waters, and made the trees to grow on the land, such kind of a thing. The fourth day right here is, now remember these symbols that you see here, they are letters, and these letters represent the parts, and each of these letters have a certain image. That is, they are not sounds, they are more like ideas. So like, for example, this one, hey, is a window. This one here is called this one is it Zadi. This one is usually a sword. This one is a door. This one is a nail. This is a wall. So you can see that it has, though this is not called Zadi, it's called Zion. Zadi is right here. So this is the fourth day on which God created the sun, moon, and the stars to guide the heavens and all that. The fifth day of the birds and the sea monsters, and the sixth day there. So until the next time, peace out.